Hello, Carmen, Bradford. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Sean?
I'm doing I'm doing well. Um, this whole quarantine situation. The the positive thing I can definitely say is it's been more time with my son,
Hmm.
uh, more time working on projects. I'm an introvert, so the additional time at home and down in my studio uh, hasn't been too terrible.
Okay.
But that's you try to find a positive thing. It's better to play with musicians in person, but
Yeah.
I've tried to find a way to uh, have some conversations and fellowship with people that I respect and admire, like yourself.
Oh, thank you. And that feeling is mutual.
So I was thinking about when we met. Um, so I think it was you came to sing with the Columbus Jazz Orchestra,
Hmm.
and uh, I was playing in the saxophone section, and so it seems like maybe you sang with the CJO a couple times. So I said hello, didn't know you as well then, but then I did a couple tours with the Count Basie Orchestra, which you also did, and I
Yeah.
thought we had a little more time to talk and uh, you know play music together, and I
Mhm.
showed you a bunch of pictures of my son and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. So cute.
Carmen, tell me a little bit about yourself and where you're from and where you grew up and what your childhood was like.
Okay. I grew up in Altadena, California. I was born in Austin, Texas. My dad was a student at Houston Tillotson. It's university now, but it was college then. And yeah, I was born there, and my father is jazz trumpeter Bobby Bradford, avant-garde player, uh, and flugelhorn. Played with Ornette Coleman for a long time. They started together. We're in high school together, and he used to write all Ornette's charts. And my mom's a singer, and this is before Don Cherry, by the way. My mother is jazz vocalist Melba Joyce, and when I think of her, you know, in New York right now, hiding. I'm begging her not to even go outside her door in New York. But I saw some um, box of cookies with Girl Scouts and brownies on there. And she was a jazz vocalist, a mother, a wife, a brownie leader, a Cub Scout leader, a Girl Scout leader. And she just kind of did it all when I was growing up. And uh, is still singing and sings with the Basie Band occasionally, sang with them for several years also. And my grandfather, my father's mother, was also a big band vocalist. His name was Melvin Moore. He sang with Lucky Millender's big band in the 40s, recorded with Dizzy, had a hit called Love Me Pretty Baby with Diz. And that's where we got he is who we got our voice from, I must say. He was an incredible singer. And grew up in Altadena, as I said, and didn't grow up in the church, um, but always loved all kinds of music, and always knew that I wanted to sing. I knew I wanted to sing when I was about 6, and had a sweet childhood. I think regulation, ups and downs. I think of both parents trying to do what they love. My father is an educator. He was teaching junior high and elementary school, and then at the university level. He still teaches at the Pomona colleges now. But my mother went to Vietnam, did 2 USO tours in Vietnam, and was very torn. We were always happy to see her go because her smile seemed to be brighter when she came back, but loved her career and just watching them grow up. It's interesting because I have a set of twin brothers, and their perspective was very different than mine. The struggle and the highs and the lows of trying to raise three kids and still have a life and fulfill your dreams. Thinking of my parents, and I think my twin brothers looked at it like, I want a steady job. I want a 9 to 5. Where I looked at it like, okay, bring it on. What is the next adventure? So what? Our lights are off for a couple of hours. Who cares? What's happening next? My attitude was just very different, from theirs. I think they took it very seriously and, always thought, well, we're never going to be late on my bills and I'm just going to get this regular gig and do this, But both of them are very, very talented musicians. One is a wonderful singer composer. His name is Carl, and he's an accountant for a fish company, a big seafood company in Southern California. And he has kind of a Johnny Mathis um, uh, sound, is singing. And the other brother is a kind of a closet singer. He doesn't really like to sing in front of us, very Donny Hathaway sound. But I grew up listening to, Aretha Franklin and Gladys Knight, all of the Motown greats. I loved the Temptations, loved Diana Ross. I loved Stevie Wonder, was kind of obsessed with Stevie Wonder, and then fell in love with Chaka Khan, and had decided at a very early age that that's what I wanted to sing, R&B. And it didn't matter that my parents were never pushy about, my singing jazz. They wanted us, all three of their children, to do whatever their heart desired. So, but I told them at a very early age, I knew what I wanted to do, but I never really sang in front of them. So they never really heard me until I was, maybe in high school. And I got the lead in Hello Dolly that my school was putting on, and that's when it really started for me. And then I thought I kind of wanted to sing classical music, and then I thought I wanted to do kind of a Broadway thing, but the R&B thing was really strong for me until I was about 16, and I was in my dad's office going through his albums. For some reason, I was in his office, at his home office, and I started listening to this album of Billie Holiday singing, and I thought, wow, she can really sing. There's something unusual about her style, but I really dug it. And then I started taking out all of his albums, and I was listening to Sarah Vaughan. And now, in the meantime, all of my life, my parents were taking us to all kinds of jazz festivals. And so I had heard a few of the people I'm speaking of live, Sarah Vaughan, of course, and Duke Ellington. I got to see him perform and met him very briefly. My mother was Louis Armstrong's vocalist in 1964. And so I was exposed to a lot of really heavy cats, And then shortly after that, I kind of discovered Ella Fitzgerald, and that was it for me. She was it. But I still love Shaka Khan.
And I can hear that in your singing, and you talk about it. Um,
Really?
yeah, yeah. You talk about how you talk several times from the stage to the audience about singing R&B and your love of R&B and how that sort of is in jazz singing.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely could hear that. I can hear that in your singing, which is it's great.
I used to laugh.
It's all the same stuff.
Same
And
church, different pew.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's all of this black music, this black American music, is all out of the early African American church,
Mm-hmm.
and it just kind of went different paths. And it's unfortunate that some folks feel like they need to keep those paths segregated, keep them
Yeah.
separate. Uh,
Uh-huh.
it's always a breath of fresh air to hear someone like yourself that doesn't mind them coming together.
Well, I feel like I've kind of paid the price, though. A lot of people don't want to hire me because they feel that I have too much of an R&B style. Sometimes they feel that my arrangements, my trio arrangements, are too R&B flavored, and they will not hire me. It's been an interesting road, and even when I started with the Basie band, now Mr. Basie loved whatever I sang and however I wanted to do it. I was the last vocalist Count Basie hired before he passed away, and I got to work with him for about a year, and I absolutely adored him, and he he loved me too, and so it was just such a blessing to work under his tutelage in that short period of time. But at the same time, there were people like Freddie Green who were right next to me on stage saying, listen, stop putting all that R&B in the song. He said, and you're singing all over everybody's parts. You're singing all over the trumpet shouts. Now you bring your tape recorder and you and I are going to listen to this together and I'm going to tell you where you're supposed to sing. He said, you need to stay in the arrangement where the singer is supposed to sing. You can't sing all over everywhere and stop doing all those hollers. So it's like, okay, but I was discovered by Count Basie. I was singing R&B one day and then discovered by Count Basie the next. And I think I knew 3 to 4 standards all the way through, period,
Mm.
and got the job. You know what I mean? It was just a huge adjustment, in every single way. And even though, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I want you to tell that story, uh, maybe from the beginning, uh, about the phone call
Oh, yes.
and yeah,
Well,
well,
when I met Mr. Basie,
yeah.
so let me get it right now. I'm having a senior moment suddenly. But one of my friends, well, this guy I was dating, this piano player I was dating, was in the group Passenger, and Passenger was a really well-known group during that time. It was in let me see, 1982. Passenger was on fire in Austin, Texas, right? And they toured a lot too. But there they asked me if I wanted to do a couple of tunes that they were opening the show for Count Basie when he was coming to town. And I said, oh, absolutely, yeah. So they said, okay, we'll be doing 2 numbers. And I said, well, great. So I chose A Foggy Day because that's the one that I knew all the way through. And I chose the other tune was Lost in the Stars.
Mm.
And I had heard that several years prior listening to Patty Austin, who I also adored and still do. So at that time, Mr. Basie was already riding on a motorized cart. He was up in age, and but he'd get up from the cart and go and sit at the piano. I mean, he could walk. He would just walk really slow. So this particular theater in downtown Austin had no elevator at that time. So Mr. Basie was forced to sit on the side of the stage, and the band was downstairs in the dressing room. So when I got to the theater, I was backstage and I saw him and the gentleman that traveled with him. I saw him sitting backstage, and I said, I'm going up, I'm going to say something. And so I went over to him and I said, hi, Mr. Basie, my name is Carmen Bradford, and I'm opening the show for you tonight, and I really think you'd make $1 million if you'd hire me. And he said, really, $1 million? I said, oh, yes, there's nothing like having a young lady, on your show in a lovely dress. And he looked like he wanted to call security, you know, but there was nobody back there but us. So I said, will you listen to me when I go out and sing? And he said, sure, honey, I'll listen. So the show began, and I went out and I did my 2 tunes, and I came back off stage and I said, well, what did you think? And he said, well, I'm going to hire you. And I said, what? And he said, yes, I'm going to hire you. I said, well, when? Because I can quit school tonight. I can go to the dorm and get. I can go to the dorm and pack up my trunk tonight with my little television. And he said, no, no, not tonight, but I'll be in touch with you. I said, okay. So I rushed, I got a taxi to the dorm and picked up a cassette of me singing because I didn't want him to forget me, you know? So it was me singing all of these Shaka Khan tunes and Doobie Brothers and Rolling Stones, and, you know. So during intermission, I said, well, I went to my dorm and I got this cassette for you. I said, because I don't want you to forget who I am. And he said, oh, no, honey, I won't forget who you are. So the show ended, and I got to meet several of the guys in the band, though I already knew Grover Mitchell, the trombonist in the band, because he was friends with my parents. And when my parents would have parties when I was growing up in the 60s, he would be at these parties, these
Mm.
house parties that were back then that they were really hip with, just some of the greatest musicians in the world, you know, would come and hang and they'd have a jam session. It was really, really great. So I had moved into a house with two other young ladies, and we were renting a house, and months had passed by, and my roommates were saying things like, that old man is not going to call you. You need to quit, you know, quit dreaming about that. He's forgotten about you. I said, no, he hasn't, you know. I know he's going to call me. So my birthday rolled around, and when I blew out my candles, I said, oh God, please let Count Basie call me tomorrow. And I kind of just forgot about what I was wishing, you know. And the next day came, and I was on my way to do a gig in Santa Fe, New Mexico, performing with the band that I was in, which was called Minor Miracle. And John Mills was the leader of that band, a brilliant, brilliant saxophonist and composer that he just opened so many doors for me and really kickstarted everything for me as far as me doing jingles, and just he really jump started everything for me and has written beautiful music for me. And there's a vocalist also who I did a lot of duets with. His name was Andy Murphy. So Andy and I would do these duets and everything. So I was on our, like I said, I was on my way. John was there to pick me up, and just when I was getting ready to get in the car, my roommate said, "There's some old man on the phone." And my first thought was that it was my grandfather and something was wrong, you know.
Mm.
I said, well, let me just run in the house a minute and make sure everything is okay. So I said, hello. And he said, is this the little girl that wants to work with me? This is Mr. Basie. And I said, is this Otis? And he said, no, no, this is Count Basie. I said, Otis, you know, I've been waiting for Count Basie to call me. Don't play on the phone like that. I said, that's not funny. I'm on my way to do my gig. And so I hung up the phone. I hung up on him. And I went back out to the car, and the phone rang again. I had gotten all the way back to the car, and my roommate said, it's that old man again on the phone. I said, oh my God, let me go back in here. So I said, hello. He said, listen here. If you hang up the phone again, I'm going to call another little girl. Now, do you still want to work with me or not? This is Mr. Basie. And I said, oh, Mr. Basie, I'm so sorry. I thought you were my cousin Otis, and I'm so sorry. I said, how are you? And he said, I'm fine. I said, oh, I've just been waiting so long for you to call. And he said, well, how are you doing? I said, I'm fine. And he said, well, someone's going to be contacting you. My road manager is going to contact you. And then I said, well, when is that going to be? He says, it's going to be very soon. I said, really? Very soon? And he said, yes. I said, okay, well, how much does it pay? Like that. And he said, what do you care? I said, I don't care. My dad makes me ask, you know, if I'm babysitting or if I have a gig or something, you know. And he said, there was like a long pause again, like, whose child am I hiring? Because I was 23. I had just turned 23. And so he said, well, someone will be in touch. I said, okay. He said, all right, well, I'll see you soon. And that was that. And then I got a call from Sonny Cohn, the road manager of the band. Now that was a Sunday, and then Sonny called me by Wednesday and said, "Hi there, this is Sonny Cohn. I'm the road manager with the Count Basie Orchestra, and I have your ticket, and we'll see you on Friday." I said, "Friday?" I said, "Today is Wednesday." He said, "I know. We'll see you on Friday. Your ticket will be at the airport. So you just bring all of your big band arrangements." And I said, "Well, I don't have any big band arrangements." I said, "I sing rock and roll and R&B." And he said, "Okay, well, just bring your little beaded gowns." I said, "I don't have any beaded gowns. I wear Levi's and cowboy boots on stage and sweatshirts and stuff." And he said, "Well, just put a little rope around your suitcase and we'll see you on Friday." And I said, "Okay." So I got to the airport Friday, and 30 of my friends from school met me at the airport to see me off. Isn't that something?
It really is.
And so I went up, it is, so I went to the ticket counter and they didn't have a ticket for me. And I got so upset, I almost started to cry. They said, "Okay, okay, just calm down, Carmen. Clearly it's been a mistake." And they said, "Just hold on." So I stood there and waited, and they all went to the ATM and pulled money out of their accounts and bought me a round trip ticket to Boston, which is where the tour was supposed to begin. And they said, "If it's not true, then you just come back home and get back in school." And I thought, "No way, baby. This has got to be happening. So I get to Boston and I get to the Boston Park Plaza Hotel, which is the information I had. And the band had not arrived yet, but they did have a reservation for me. And so I went on and I checked in the hotel, and I had a room on the front side of the hotel, and it was an old, beautiful hotel. I don't even know if it's still there, but they had these giant windows and you could actually raise the windows, which was shocking. And I was leaning out, I remember leaning out the window going, "Well, surely they're all going to be coming in separate limousines. So I'm just going to look for some black, limousines coming down the street." So just young and stupid, right? So then there was this big stankin' Greyhound bus that came down the street. I said, and it had just lots of fumes coming out. And I said, "Well, surely they're not getting off of that." And sure enough, that bus pulled right in front of the hotel, and I saw all these black men getting off the bus. I said, "Oh, that's us. Well, let me get downstairs." So I ran downstairs, and then Mr. Basie had gotten off last. Um, and I said, "Hi, Mr. Basie, I'm here." And he said, "Yes, you are." He said, "How are you?" I said, "I'm fine." I said, "I didn't have an airline ticket and my friends had to buy my ticket, but other than that, I'm good."
Oh, right, right, right.
So he said, "Well, I'll have Sonny take care of that." I said, "Well, what are we going to do now?" He said, "Well, we're going to check in and then we're going to meet down here at 5 and you and I will get on the bus last." And I said, "Okay." So I met him downstairs, and the bus was loaded and all the guys were on the bus. And so we got on last, and he said, "Gentlemen, this is our new little girl. What's your name, honey?" I said, "Carmen." And he said, "This is our new little girl, Carmen." He said, "You sit right here, baby, okay?" He always talked to me like I was maybe 6 or 7, always like I was a really little girl. And I just said, "Okay." So, but right before I sat down, he went like this and looked at everybody, pointed to everybody, made eye contact with him on the bus, even people in the back, because when he spoke, it was EF Hutton, baby, for real. Everybody was really silent. But when he started pointing that little chunky finger, he said, "Don't even think about it. Don't even think about it," like that. And he said, "Sit right here, baby." And then he sat right behind me. Nobody ever hit on me or anything. It was they were gentlemen. And when I remember when I said hi, they went, "Hey, how you doing?" You know, just some old goats, but swinging goats.
That's a great story.
Thank you.
You have another story that you sometimes tell about Ella Fitzgerald, about maybe her uh, being a little insecure about her singing.
Yes. We were at Carnegie Hall, And we had performed, and by the intermission, I went to her dressing room and knocked on her door, and I said, "Hi, Miss Ella, can I get you anything?" And she was kind of pacing the floor, and I remember she had on this really beautiful white dress with bugle beads and really high heels that were way too high for her to be wearing. I think at that age, she was in her late 70s then. And but she was rubbing her hands together, and she said, "Oh, I just hope they like me." And I said, "Well, who are you talking about?" And she said, "The audience." I said, "Well, who doesn't love you?" He said, "Well, sometimes, baby, I don't do well. I don't do well all the time." I said, "Well, what is that? I've never heard anybody say you didn't do great." He said, "Why?" She said, "Well, I don't do well all the time." I said, "Well," and I didn't want to argue with her. But she said, I just hope they like me." And so I said, "Well, I know it's going to be great." And she went out there, of course, and knocked all the plaster off of the walls at Carnegie Hall and just rocked it. She was absolutely incredible and just a lovely, lovely spirit and very, very kind to me.
I like the kind of stories where um, uh, people are honest about things.
Mm-hmm.
That uh, the whole nerves thing. That's one of
Yeah.
these topics that it's a little bit of a taboo topic because it's hard to get professionals to admit that they get nervous or that they're anxious at all about
Mm,
a performance.
yes.
And I you know I've been. You said that you decided you wanted to sing when you were 6. Well, that's when I decided I wanted to play saxophone.
Okay.
That's when I started, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the only thing that I ever wanted to do was do music.
Uh-huh.
And as much performing as I've done, and recording, and doing all kinds of different, uh, events and things, I still get anxious. I'm still a little anxious before I play,
Mm-hmm.
and and it's something that I share with my students. I tell them that. I say, look, it's okay to be nervous. Nerves is part of it. If you're not at least a little bit nervous, that means uh, that you're not alive. And I'd
That's,
rather be alive, you know.
mm-hmm.
and I was interviewing Victor for this same series,
Mm-hmm.
and he told me that uh, he got called to do some gigs with series of gigs with and the Chick Corea, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And he told me that he got nervous. He got really nervous. He was very anxious, and the way he looked at it was, here's a situation. I get to be nervous. He looked at it like that. I get to be nervous.
Hmm.
I get to do I get to do a show, play with an artist that I admire and respect. I get to be nervous. You know,
Wow.
he looked at it that way. Um, uh, how do you think about the nerves thing? And when you do get anxious, um, what are some ways that you try to uh, calm down?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, starting with the Count Basie and his orchestra at that age, the pressure. If I thought about it too long, if I thought about the fact that the singers that came before me were Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, and Joe Williams, and Helen Humes, and Jimmy Rushing, and Nancy Wilson, and Frank Sinatra, and Tony Bennett, and all of these incredible singers that came before me, and knowing that Dennis Rowland was the vocalist with the band at the time. When I first started, He was the vocalist, and so I sang on the first half, and Dennis sang on the second half. But one thing about, singing with the Basie band, you as a vocalist, you don't get a lot of opportunities. And if you're new, you're really not getting a lot of opportunities. You might sing 2 to 3 tunes, period, or 2 tunes back when. The pressure to nail that performance because you only have 2 opportunities to do that is indescribable. And I think it created a fear in me, um, and the intimidation of standing in front of that orchestra was just so intense. It bothers me even now when I work with the band, even though we have a lot of babies in there. It's a little opposite now because they are looking at me with a different set of eyes because I'm old now. You know what I mean? I'm somebody that they heard of, a long time ago on a Basie recording. So I'm the old lady now, but the pressure of standing in front of them, I feel like I've always felt like I was being judged, and then I was in school, and I found myself as soon as I would sing um, that chorus, and then they would play the bridge, and then I'd come back in at the bridge. I would always look at certain people in the band. Of course, I'd always look at Mr. Basie, but I'd look at Freddie Green and who other senior members of the orchestra in my early years to see what they thought, and I'd wait for them to give me a look like, "Oh yeah, that was, yeah," or they wouldn't look at me and just wouldn't give me any energy.
Mm.
Ooh, it makes my palms sweat even now when I think back on that. And I still deal with a lot of fear when it comes to going on stage, because I always want to nail it, because I always feel like this is your last chance to get this. So let's
Mm.
show them what you got and let's get it right. It's a lot of pressure. So I deal with it now more or less with just prayer before I go on,
Mm.
and lots of deep breaths and really settling myself, and knowing what I plan to sing. Knowing what I plan to sing, I usually don't because
Mm.
I always want to try something. I don't particularly care for singing things the same way each night unless I really like what I sang, unless it's a lick I really want to perfect if I can. I should say get better because you never get it just perfect, but I'm also in a place now where I don't give a damn what anybody thinks.
Mm.
Okay, you have to just be yourself, and you have to enjoy what you're doing, and you have to tell your story, and hopefully you have your stuff together. Hopefully you practiced before you came out there. That causes a lot of fright too. If you don't have your stuff together, if you have not practiced, if you don't know where that comma is supposed to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I always tell my students is, one of the great uh, uh, therapies for nerves is
Mm-hmm.
over preparation. Well, not over preparation, but
Mm-hmm.
really being confident and thorough
Yeah,
about your prep. Because you can over bake the potato too.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's possible too. And I've made that mistake before where I was so nervous about a particular opportunity, and
Mm-hmm.
I just kept practicing and practicing all the way up until the gang, and then
Right,
even if your chops can handle it, your brain can't. I
right.
mean, it's just too much. It's just too much intensity for too long.
Yes, that's true. I agree.
Um, Another thing that I have talked to my students about, and I noticed in myself that I have to really pay attention to this, is especially if I'm going to be doing something that I think I'm going to be more anxious about than usual.
Uh-huh.
I have to make sure that I'm hydrated.
Okay.
I have to drink a lot of water because
Mm-hmm.
adrenaline, it just burns up all the water.
Yeah.
And then once you get to the point where you realize that you made a mistake and everything's dried up, you can't drink
Mm-hmm.
enough water, to get hydrated in the moment. So I have to start drinking water like, a couple of hours before, you know,
Absolutely.
the performance.
Absolutely. Hmm.
You,
You know, excuse me for interrupting you,
no,
but
go ahead.
one thing about your performance, the times that I've seen you perform, um, I've never seen such focus from the other guys in the band when you get up to play. It's like we all feel like we're being taken to school
Oh goodness gracious.
in the best way. I mean, your performances are just glorious. Your artistry, let me say it, your artistry is just spectacular. It truly is.
I'll pay you later. Thank you.
It's true. It is true. I don't say
Thank you.
that very often, but it's so so true with you, and such a delight to hear you play.
Thank you very much. You sound so good. Uh, you are so consistent. I've never heard you when you uh, when your pitch wasn't just right on, and just everything about your performance. You're very, and one thing that I'm noticing from you going into depth about um, being anxious and stuff and having some fear associated with singing, it makes
Mm.
sense that that there would be a very little uh, there'd be very little range between when something is happening that's absolutely perfect and maybe you don't feel great about the performance. Even if you don't feel great about the performance, the the gap between those two is so close that probably you can tell that that's the case. I mean, it's just so very good uh,
Thank
all the
you.
time.
Oh my goodness, thank you.
Yeah, but it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me uh, knowing because in my own playing, um, I think because I do get anxious and I am so concerned about what happens,
Hmm.
that kind of forces me to, okay, uh, you know, this could be the last time I ever play. Now this better be the right stuff, you know.
I know. Oh my God, I know.
Yeah, yeah,
That feeling is just, it's indescribable, isn't it?
yeah, and it's uh, as almost traumatic as that can be in the moment. I don't know that I would change it. I think that uh, the experience that I have, um, the level of enjoyment and fulfillment that I get from taking that challenging thing on and really, doing it well, given the pressure, it
Mm-hmm.
like, um, it just makes it that much more worth it to me.
Hmm.
So, um, so I said I started when I was 6, and it seems like you started singing when you were 6.
Hmm.
Um, when did you know for sure that this is what I wanted to do? Was it right when you started when you were 6 singing, or how long did it take before you were like, okay, I think I'm stuck with this. I think this is going to be what it is.
Well, I from a very early age, my mother always pushed creative visualization.
Mm,
So it was a constant pushing of seeing myself there, or seeing myself uh, and kind of claiming what I wanted in life.
I see.
You know, I had no doubt it's all I ever wanted to do. There just wasn't any other kind of consideration until I guess when I guess about 18. I thought I really love interior design.
Mm,
So I just kind of put that on the back burner. I knew once I went off to college and I was in school and singing and everything that I probably wouldn't have time even to do any kind of online thing. And I didn't want to try to get an online degree in interior design, you know. So I just kind of made up my mind that I was going to open a really, really tiny antique booth in antique stores here with in Georgia. They have a lot of antique stores where people purchase sections of the store and you bring in all of your goods to sell. And that was the closest I got to it. But my tour schedule has always been so busy. It really jumped off then. So I didn't have time. I sold a lot too. I did very well with my little booth, but I sold so much stuff. I didn't have time to go and replenish, you know, and get out because you have to get out and find really cool stuff when you're trying to sell antiques and do that flea market thing. But I still, some of my friends have allowed me to come in and redesign rooms in their homes and stuff, and they've trusted me. So that's my side thing. If people let me come in and move things around.
You know, my wife is an interior decorator.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Wow.
She's a dancer by training.
Uh-huh.
She's got her own dance company,
Oh, wow.
um, but she does repurposed art, and she's done uh, a lot of this sort of like you said, where you set your stuff up in someone
Mm,
else's store, and
right.
you know try to sell everything. And
Yeah, yeah.
um, I am her. I schlep all the stuff. I don't actually
That
have a position. Just all the stuff.
that's great. That was my husband's job as well. Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So in my earliest thoughts about music, um, I don't know that I was involved really in choosing music. Like
Mm,
I think it chose me. Like it just there was nothing else that I seriously considered. That was always like the path for me. Um, did you feel? Have you felt like music chose you?
um, I don't. No, I wouldn't say that. Only
Okay,
because after from the time I heard my grandfather sing and heard my mother sing, I knew where my voice came from,
I
and
see.
I had decided that I was just going to work on it, just work on it and work on it and work on it, and try to get as good as I could possibly get. And like I said, I was so in love with singing R&B.
Mm.
I spent a lot of time working on runs and riffs. Spent a lot of time listening to Stevie Wonder and to Shaka Khan and developing my lung capacity and trying to hold notes like Johnny Mathis. But I was also singing classical music as well. I studied with Edward Boatner, very famous black opera coach, and Sonny Stitt's stepfather, actually.
Mm.
And he really, that was when I was 16, after I did Hello Dolly. And my parents were kind of pushy. After the Hello Dolly thing, my dad said, I think you could really do this professionally, Carmen. And I said, I'm going to. I'm going to do this. What do you mean? You think I'm doing it? Um, but I had sang so much classical music, and I was in madrigals, in high school. So it was my grandfather's idea for me to come to New York for the summer and study with Edward Boatner, which I did. Um, and I think after that summer, I really made a decision that was something I didn't want to do, but I was excited that I felt like I knew what I was doing in case I needed to audition for something, you know.
Right.
But other than that, I've always been just very focused about this, you know.
So, so you mentioned, uh, so who have been your primary influences? I mean, you said you talked about Shaka Khan and Stevie Wonder and
Mm.
Ella Fitzgerald and um, uh, who in particular do you feel like you still channel when you're singing?
Well, I feel like I've borrowed a lot from my mom.
Okay.
Now, she has an incredible voice, and um, I always listen to her recordings as a guide. I've always listened to a lot of Tony Bennett for his phrasing, which I've always loved, and I loved Carmen McRae as well, um, and Nancy Wilson too. Got to
Yeah.
spend time with her when the band toured, when the Basie Orchestra toured with her several times, and learned a lot from her. As a matter of fact, I'm recording a tribute album to Nancy very, very
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, of course, I love the Cannonball and Nancy Wilson record. Of course, I mean I have to. I'm a saxophone player, um, and I love great singers. Um,
Hmm.
but probably my favorite Nancy Wilson record is that Love Nancy.
Oh yeah.
That's probably my favorite. And I kind of I backed into a lot of her earlier stuff.
Hmm.
I think after having heard that record,
Okay.
I think I heard the Cannonball record earlier on, but it kind of like you know I was a kid when I heard it, so it kind of went in one ear and out the other. But by the time I was like really um, uh, checking out singers more and trying to focus more on certain nuance that I was trying to get in my playing, um, that Love Nancy record was uh,
Hmm.
an important record for me. What are some of
Yeah.
your favorite recordings?
Of
Well, just
hers, you mean,
general. Yeah,
or
yeah,
just in general? Uh, I think for her, the "Only the Young" is a favorite of mine, which I do with
yeah.
the Basie Band, and I love um, I love my recording of "Young and Foolish," but with the arrangement that Frank
Mm.
Foster wrote for me. Have you ever heard that?
I think so. I'm pretty sure I have.
That is one of I feel like that arrangement that he wrote for me was just absolutely. I just feel like he had in mind every breath that I took, and he wrote for me like he knew how much I could do vocally, which is what a good arranger does, for a singer.
When's
But
the last time? When's the last time you sang that with Basie Band?
oh, only if people request it. If I'm going to Europe, I'll take it with me. I'll take
Mhm.
the arrangement with me, and that last, excuse me, European tour, was that last summer? It may have been
Yeah,
last.
I think because okay, because I was just trying to in my head get it straight. But yeah, we did that. I played that with you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great arrangement.
Yeah, it's really lovely. That is one of my favorites, and I loved um, arrangements by Michel Legrand and the Bergmans.
Hmm.
Um, I love uh, I love Barbara Streisand. I can't name any specific arrangements, any specific recordings at the moment. I don't know why, but um, I love the tune "Look Who's Mine," which is a beautiful Brazilian tune written by Dori Caymmi
Hmm.
and the Bergmans, I believe. And um, I listen to a lot of Herb Alpert's wife. What is her name? Lonnie. Ooh. I'm so sorry, ma'am, if you watch this if you watch this
It's
interview
okay.
of mine. I absolutely adored her and learned so much from her
Hmm.
when she was with Brazil '66 with Sergio Mendez, and I love Tony Bennett's recording of ah, I'm having a moment. I'm old. What can I tell you? Um, what is that tune called? That arrangement is called. I can't think of it. I should have written this down. Do, do, dee, do, da. Quincy Jones wrote it. Bo, bo, ba, dee, do, dum. Ooh, dee, da, da. Okay, I can't think of it. The Pawnbroker.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Oh, yeah.
Um, I love Tony Bennett's recording of Emily. I like his arrangement of Girl Talk. I'm not sure if Quincy wrote that arrangement, but I love that. It is so swinging. I love Ella's recording of Honeysuckle Rose, the one that I do, the one that I recorded. I love her recording of um, oh goodness, what is it called? There's a Lull in My Life
Mm.
from the Ella and Oscar Peterson album. It's a
So,
duo. It's a duo album with sprinkles of Ray Brown in there. It's gorgeous.
so you're very eclectic, and I think all of that has uh, informed, the way you sing and everything, which I love. Um, so, uh, what do you practice? So, okay, let me give you a little. So, uh, as I get older and I have more responsibilities, I have less time to practice. You know,
Uh-oh.
um,
You
eh,
froze. I didn't hear anything you said.
can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Yeah. So, uh, as I get older and I have more responsibilities,
Mm-hmm.
I have less time to practice.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, when I was growing up, I had a lot of time to practice,
Mm-hmm.
particularly when I was in college. Lots of time to practice. And I always tell my students, you know, get your stuff together now and guard your practice time, because this is going to be the time, when you have the most time to practice. After you get done here, then then you got to make money.
That's right.
You got to survive. You got to pay your mortgage. You got to take care of business, and that has to be more important than anything else that you do.
That's right.
And so now I do practice, and I practice regularly, but I don't have as much time, so I have to be real, like, kind of specific about what it is that I'm practicing.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't practice the same things I used to. I
Uh-huh.
mean, I've things have evolved. I think I've learned more about um, the things that I need the most work on, and
Mm-hmm.
I've become more efficient also.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so my question to you is, what do you practice? What are you practicing now? Like, what do you work on now that you're still trying to, you know, uh, you know, get closer to that perfection to work certain things out?
I practice a lot of long tones because I have allergies and asthma,
Mm,
and holding notes is a real challenge for me sometimes if I haven't had enough sleep, which is just everything for a singer. You have to sleep, you have to be quiet, you can't do a lot of chit chatting. And so I practice, I listen to recordings and I sing along with them. Very difficult recordings of Ella's, difficult recordings of mine, meaning my early albums. I don't have that many, I only have about 4 or 5. But I practice the early ones because the keys are so uncomfortable for me now.
Mm.
If I can hit all those notes, I try to sing through three or four of someone's CDs, if not my own. And that's always a nice warm up for me. But I have to, let's just say this Basie tour that I'm not sure it's going to happen in July. Um, I have to really start practicing. Let's see, this is April. I have to start practicing next month for that
Mm.
tour, just because of my stamina. You know what I mean? It's the only way I can maintain um, that go on stage and hit it hard and come off and then do another little three tunes on there and try to nail all of that physically. It's weeks of singing along with recordings that I find challenging,
Hmm.
whatever that may be. It might be a classical artist, um, or it just might be a lot of Johnny Mathis at any particular time, where I know that I'm going to have to hold notes for a long time, but I have to start. It takes me a good 2 months when you have time off like this,
Hmm.
and I've been doing everything but singing. You know, I'm trying to sing a little now, just to get my body started. But wow, practicing is really a challenge for me physically. The older I get, it's just not easy. And if you don't do it every day or get a head start on what you've got to do, forget about it. You lose your voice. You tend to oversing, overcompensate. You're breathing, you know, releasing too much air. It's just a lot of things. But long tones for me is a big deal.
Um, uh, so I'm the minister of music at a church, and what that means is that I'm directing the choir and I'm picking all the music and teaching all the parts and all that,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm you know I I don't do very much public singing,
Uh-huh.
but I sing well enough to teach the parts, and I understand. I took voice lessons when I was working on my doctorate. I wanted to learn more about the voice in
Mm-hmm.
healthy singing, and
Yeah.
so I know a couple things to tell singers, like, hey, throat coat, you got to do your throat coat, and I know a few things like that. But obviously you're going to know a lot more than I do. What are some things that maybe you talk to your students about as far as how to protect their voice, and what are some things that you do to protect your voice?
Um, when I'm doing a tour, a month long, I do a lot of symphony dates these days.
Hmm.
Um, as much as I do, Basie band dates, I'm just starting to do some more trio things, which always are exhausting to me. But it's really important that you get your rest. If you don't sleep a certain amount of hours a night before you have to sing, just forget about it, man. It's just so physical to stand up there and sing hard like that, like I do.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
um, so sleep is very very important. I don't tend to drink a lot of teas. Not to say that if that makes somebody else's pipes feel good, that's wonderful. I'm not saying I don't, but rest is the key for me. And normally I'm just challenged with allergies, you know,
Mm.
um, and not getting enough sleep because it's difficult for me to get to sleep after gigs. I love a bowl of chicken wings, and then 3 movies later, I'm drowsy. You know what I mean? Now I'm a pescatarian, so there's no more chicken wings. But uh, several months ago, it was a different story. But I've had good results with that. Letting meat go too. Just with phlegm from chicken and phlegm from turkey, and just all of the the stuff that doesn't agree with my body. Not knocking it, but the vegetable seafood thing is really changed my stamina and my I feel better and I rest easier. But I have to sleep, and I take allergy pills. I take Mucinex DM and Mucinex D, and it
Mm.
just dries my head up and keeps my everything very, very clear. And um, but I usually have to take that every 2 days, and I wear turtlenecks all year round because I take so many flights. You know, you can't let your body get cold. You have to. I have scarves and scarves and scarves and turtlenecks and caps and this is all year round, no matter how hot it is where I'm going.
That's
You have
not.
to.
That sounds like my wife, and she's not even a singer.
Well, if she's a dancer, you have to keep your legs warm.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm teasing. I'm
and
teasing.
but I'm not a person that and I'm not a person that gets cold, you know.
Mhm.
But by the end of whatever show it is I'm doing, I'm sweating profusely by the time I come off. So I have to have my hair covered, you know. My hair is usually completely wet. My body is wet, so you have to live in jackets and sweaters and let me rephrase that. You have to live in cute jackets and cute sweaters and cute caps and travel with lots of adorable clothes that you love because you're going to be in them a lot. So, but yeah, man, it's like, I feel like, you know, all I'm missing is taking my teeth out. I feel like an elderly lady. I've got the scarf around my neck and the scarf, and, around my head and the neck and the jacket but hopefully I'm ready for the next show. And that's your life as a singer. That's it. And riding on the bus back to the hotel and going to bed. That's it.
Yeah, I don't sleep well when I'm not in my own bed.
Yeah.
I just don't. Um, and for the longest, I mean, it still is the case now. Any bed to sleep in, even if it's a lot better bed than my own, it
Mm-hmm.
does a number on my back. Look,
Mm-hmm.
every time it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Um, and so that's a challenge for me, like doing tours, and
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're doing a lot of gigs, and and you're up real super early. You only was laying in the bed for 2 hours. Now you're back up again. So some of that stuff gets it gets challenging.
Yes,
Uh,
I wonder whose tour that could be. Ooh,
yeah,
man. That's
yeah.
brutal. Well, you know what? I don't know about you, but the good thing for me is that I can sleep on a bus. I can
Mm.
sleep on a bus and I can sleep on a plane. Because I'm usually exhausted and can't wait to just, or crash in the airport. But I don't know about you. Well, the plane thing is not, I know you don't enjoy that very much.
No, I don't. I don't enjoy that a whole lot.
Hmm.
I've gotten better about it uh, recently. It was really bad for a while, and then
Mm.
it started to get better. Being claustrophobic,
Hmm.
um, but I'm recognizing that and um, some anxiety I was dealing with, not associated with performing, but just general anxiety I was dealing with, I think are likely related to the same thing.
Mm.
And then if I'm not sleeping well, then it's just like that's just those two things don't go together, or they like
I
each
hear you.
other. They like each other. That's what I should say.
Okay.
uh, but yeah. So um, so how about the future? What future goals do you have? Are you? I heard you saying that you're working on a project. Uh,
Yes, I'm excited about the Nancy project. I teach at San Francisco Conservatory of Music, in the
Yeah.
RJAM program, which stands for Roots, Jazz, and American Music, and I'm over the vocal jazz department
Yeah.
there, and I work with Claire D, jazz vocalist Claire D. So when I'm not there, I teach there once a month for three
Mhm.
days. And when I'm not there, Claire D works with the students, so the student sees one of us, at least once or twice a month.
Hmm.
Love it. I absolutely love it. I just wish the program were bigger. It's only about 28 students, but I think there might be more. They're letting a few more vocal students in. So it's a lovely program, and I'm proud of it, proud to be part of it. Um, and I'm
Yeah.
hoping more symphony dates.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I had a lot of them booked from March through April, my Ella show, because I have an Ella Fitzgerald tribute show that I do by myself. I have a lot of those coming up, and Byron Stripling and I have an Ella and Lewis show. And then I'm in another show of Byron's called, well, sometimes it's called A Night at the Cotton Club, but it changes a lot. Um, but we have a tap dancer that's part of that show. His name is Leo Manzari, and he's really wonderful. So yeah, I'm pretty busy with that, and I'm pushing myself to do more trio performances. I stopped because I just don't enjoy. I don't enjoy singing for 75 minutes, two shows a night for 75 minutes with just tune after tune after tune. It's like 15 tunes per show.
Sounds like you need a saxophone player.
Yeah, absolutely right. I could pause a moment. Hey, listen, man, that's not a bad idea. I will definitely think of you now that you've mentioned that. But
Yeah.
I just started doing more trio dates, and then as soon as I got up and sang like the first 6 to 8 tunes, I was like, man, and we're still not finished. I don't know why the show has to be so. Why does the show have to be so long? And I'm not one of those singers where um, if people are coming to hear me sing, if they have paid to come and hear me sing, I don't fill up each tune with really long solos. It's not that I don't want to hear everybody play, but I, people are coming to hear me sing, and I respect that, and that's why I'm exhausted. But I just wish that the shows could be 65 or 70 minutes. I don't, 65 minutes, 60 to 65 minutes, and not 75. It's just a lot, and it doesn't seem like a lot to somebody else that ain't up there wailing on every tune. But man,
Yeah. I think a saxophone would cut about 10 minutes off.
okay, all
So,
right, I will keep in mind, honey.
all right. So, I heard you say, what is it? Pescatarian?
Pescatarian,
Yeah,
yes.
pescatarian. Um,
Uh-huh.
so we're all locked down and spending a lot more time by ourselves,
Uh-huh.
and maybe it's an opportunity for some introspection and the, personal growth. You know, are you considering that, or the things that you're um looking into?
As far as you mean, just spiritually? What do you mean
Yeah, I
exactly?
mean, well, you hear a lot of people talking about spending more time with family,
Mm-hmm.
or you know, or thinking about how uh, maybe this is, you know, uh, maybe an aspect of this is a blessing because maybe it gives us more time to maybe actually slow down and think about some things,
Oh
and
yeah.
that kind of thing. Uh,
Well, I was on the road 45 weeks in the last. 12 months. So to be home, uh, it's just been such a blessing. I love my house so much, and I love seeing my husband. You know, I had been so busy. I would come home and literally bring my luggage in and dump everything in the washing machine, wash my clothes, repack those clothes, and then leave again the next day. It's just, and I swear, let me just knock on wood too. I'm not complaining about that kind of tour schedule, because there, uh, self-employed musicians, we appreciate the fact that you might have actually some money you can put away. It's just not easy, and I don't teach enough. Well, I teach just enough. I will say that. But my schedule has just been quite intense. So to be home and be able to actually cook dinners for my husband, you know, I'm a girly girl like that. I love to clean my own house, and trust me, this past year I got so much dust, it's plenty to clean. so, so I've been, just staying prayed up about this coronavirus, and hoping they discover a cure in quicker than 12 to 18 months,
Yeah.
'cause it's just so frightening. And I've lost so many friends, and have friends that are in the hospital now, and it's really just surreal. And like I said, I just really stay prayed up and try to pace myself, because I've been dealing with a lot of anxiety too. It's just waking up and it's like, I am at home. Why am I at home? Then you remember why you're home, and then you watch the news, and it's just overwhelming. And by 6 o'clock, when lately, I guess it's about 6 o'clock, when our president, comes on and does his speech, I just have to take a deep breath. But now I just have to turn it off. I can't hear anymore. I
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah. I think, so we have this 24-hour news cycle. And
Hmm.
uh, in anytime anything, new comes up, it's got to be saturated for like a couple weeks and nobody can talk about anything else, right?
Right, right.
And then you have that like times 10, times
Hmm.
100 or something, right? Because everybody is talking about exactly the same thing.
Right.
And you can't even get on social media. You can't get on websites. They
Yeah.
all have that little COVID-19 thing. Oh,
Right.
this is what we're doing to deal with this.
Right.
And yeah, and it really is too much. I stay informed, and I have different ways to get the news that I need. Um, but yeah, just turning the TV on, it's just like, oh, come on. Like, I just try to watch movies, man. Get on
Me-
Netflix and watch Netflix or something, so I don't have to to deal with it.
I watch a lot of Turner Classic movies,
Oh,
and I absolutely love it. I watch a lot of Netflix as well, but I have to just step away. And I have tons of things to do around my house, so that's keeping me busy, really busy, and yard work. Working in my yard, I'm laying pine straw and unclogging drains, and it was quite a weekend actually. But I love being at home. I'm taking advantage of it, and it's peaceful. This is definitely my sanctuary, and I needed to be here. So it's been a blessing in some ways.
so are anything else that you want to talk about, or that you want to mention, or something you want to plug?
Just that this Nancy Wilson album is going to be absolutely wonderful. I was friends with her, and Um, the reason that I am doing the album is that I know people jumped on things and did a lot of tributes to her when she first passed away, and having known her, um, I want to do it right. Not to say that anybody did anything wrong, but I know what she would expect when it comes to someone paying tribute to her, and I know she'll be pleased with what I plan to do. I performed the show. I paid tribute to her at the Gen Conference um, in January, and it was spectacular. And I said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have to do this. I need to record this." And it's probably going to be my last tribute album to anybody, because I've done so many tributes to Ella on stage, and I've always paid tribute to her on each recording. I usually do something that she recorded and pay tribute to her, and it's written in liner notes and everything. But this is probably going to be my last of the tribute situation, and then I'm just going to focus on myself and record more, which I don't like to do. I don't enjoy being in the studio too much. I know it's weird, but it's something about singing in a box that I find it very claustrophobic, and I don't feel creative when I'm standing in, even if it's the glass, you know.
It just occurred to me. I mean, uh, you know, I prefer to play live.
Me too.
I prefer to play for an audience. Um, and although I, um, we're fortunate to have the technology that allows us to do what we're doing right now,
Right.
and that would allow us to record in a studio.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not the same
Mm-hmm.
as interacting with people in real time.
Yeah.
Um, Matter matters, you know,
Mm-hmm.
physical stuff matters. Being within a certain proximity of people matters. It has
Mm-hmm.
an effect on uh, things that we don't even understand. It's metaphysical. There's
Mm-hmm.
other stuff that's going on. There's
Yes, it is.
mystical thing that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, in playing for an audience with people that you dig is about the I can't think of something that I'd rather do. It's like the highest experience, um, especially when it's really killing.
Yes, I agree.
And
I
that's
agree.
that's something that has occurred to me um, a lot over the last month. You know,
Mm-hmm.
with all the teaching that I'm doing this way, and um, it's just it just makes me miss. Man, I just can't wait until this thing is over. That's
Yeah,
that's 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 what I'm saying.
I hear you. I hear you. Even to, it's great that we have Zoom and you've got people all in all these little boxes, on the screen and everything, and everybody's playing. But I look forward to even if I have to invite some folks over to my living room to play. You know what I mean?
Well,
Just a
yeah,
jam. Looking forward to that. It's just, um, yeah, you miss it when it's gone. You know,
yeah.
you truly do.
Well, Carmen, I so appreciate you doing this interview, and appreciate your time and your energy. And
Well,
uh,
thank you. I appreciate you asking. You could have asked anybody. It's an honor for me to have done this. I mean, I thank you.
yeah, I have to say, if I didn't ask you, then
Hmm.
I wouldn't be a wise decision maker. I have to ask you. I mean, you are uh, you're so great.
Well, thank you, Sean. Don't make me cry now.
No,
I'm having.
I'm gonna keep doing it until I get you to cry. That's my goal. All right.
Thank you so much. This has just been a pleasure, and thank you.
You're very welcome, and I will be linking your website in the description. And we've been Facebook friends for a long time, but I
Mm.
realized yesterday, or maybe it was earlier today, that we weren't Instagram friends. So
Yes, and I
we get,
followed you.
yeah. We got connected there, so that'll be
Yeah,
great. Yeah,
yeah. Thank you so much.
you got it. Well, God bless you and your family, and I pray for our country, our world, that we can get through this thing and be better for it.
Yes, indeed. And you as well.
All right. Well, I'll see you later.
All right, dear. Take care.
All right now.
Thank you.